Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, another week, another missing person. Also missing, my will to live. How about you?
Oh, same. Nothing's changed on that front.
Oh yeah, it's been a struggle. We've been trying to find cases to cover, and the problem we're running into consistently now is thankfully there's a limited number of missing people.
We are grateful for that.
Yeah. Even more thankfully, there are an even more limited number of missing people whose cases are actually mysterious. And I don't want to be a true crime channel.
We kind of already are. That's the thing.
I know, but
the real issue primarily is the fact that most of the cases that we look at, he is not convinced they're interesting enough to make a video about.
I am having a serious existential crisis about how, as Amanda and I get closer to the ending of House, which again, I'm not going to spoil it because I don't want to spoil it, and she watches the show. So, and if you haven't seen it, granted, the show's been out for 20 years, but one of the best television show endings I think ever.
Could not agree more.
Personally, it's one of the few that I haven't been like, that could have been better. You watch it and you're like, yep, you know what? That is the best possible way you could have ended this show. Wraps up all the loose ends, makes everybody, it pulls at your heartstrings. But I keep realizing more and more that I have entirely too much in common with the titular character.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
Yeah, instead of Vicodin, it is Adderall for me. Although I do have significant back pain, so who knows? Maybe down the line, I too will become addicted to opiates.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say get a cane.
No. That's back. What am I gonna get? A back brace?
Well, I mean, if the back pain gets too bad and you can't support your upper body enough, so maybe maybe if another one of your ribs breaks.
Another one. Yeah. For those who don't know, I have broken my ribs on 3 separate occasions. None of those were fun experiences. I have chronic pain in the left side of my upper back from one that I broke when I was 11. And then I also have lower back pain that I can't totally figure out why I have it. But it got better for a little while because I put Dr. Scholl's in my shoes. That helped a lot, but it's still not totally better. And the last few nights I've been in excruciating levels of back pain. Can't really lay down. Not an enjoyable time. Anyway, to bring it back to the topic of the conversation, if the case isn't interesting, I have a lot of trouble caring enough to write a 20-page essay on it. Also, a lot of stuff we've covered in the past. I was realizing as I was reading through stuff, I went and I found lists of unsolved bizarre disappearances and stuff. And I'm like, okay, done it. Looked at it, not enough information. Done it. Everything's the mysterious disappearance of Garrett Bardsley. And I'm like, yep, been there. Jordan Grimes, been there. Stacey Arce, been there.
I will say there are some back from deep in our backlog.
Yeah. The Boy in the Box came back up. Been there, done that.
What I was thinking, so I was going through part of what I was doing for work this weekend was going back and I was setting up Monday, which for ladies and gentlemen, we at the Lodge, after almost 4 years of operating, are finally utilizing a organization software. Woo! Or at least one of us is for now. We'll get him squared away eventually.
Squared away.
I don't know why I turned Swedish for a moment there.
You are hiding the scheduling under the floorboards, aren't you?
Which is a great reference to the meme that we talked about this weekend. But yeah, one of the things I was realizing is that there are a few things from way back in the day that we probably could cover again. Yeah, Kenny Beach was one of the things I was thinking about.
Oh, I wish I had thought of that 6 hours ago. I haven't actually started this week's case yet, but I could theoretically do that. But I liked what you found, and it actually relates to the topic of the show today.
Yes.
Which do you want to tell the class what you learned at the mechanics today?
So I went over. So my truck is dead right now, and I turned out, thankfully, not entirely my fault. Turns out it was the previous owner who made some bad repair decisions, and it ended up affecting me down the line, which is great. I'm just glad I wasn't a complete idiot. But while I was there and we were discussing that, they know what we do, and they're always interested in what cases we're covering. And one of the mechanics who works there was saying, well, if you guys ever want anything local, I know of a number of different stories in the area. One of them actually involves my aunt. And I was like, oh? And so he gave the story of a young woman who was living in Norristown back in the 80s.
For those who are unaware, Norristown is approximately 15 minutes east of us.
Yes. She disappeared. There was a young man who I think, well, by that point was probably in his like 20s or something like that, who was considered to be responsible. And the police could never pin it on him, even though apparently, supposedly, there were bloody clothes of hers found in his apartment. That was that was still not enough to convict him in any sort of way for whatever reason. I'm very curious to know why the 1984 Norristown Police Department couldn't really nail that down.
I'm going to try to call the Norristown Police Department. So here's the thing. Like, on the one hand, we could do Kenny Veach this week because it's worth redoing that.
Yeah.
And that would give me more time to get in touch with the police.
Yeah. Might also give more time in case we want to have him, I don't know what his schedule's like.
So, honestly, Kenny Veach is probably the way to go now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's a weird one.
It is a weird one. To wrap up this story real quick is, so apparently she has never been found. Her parents never stopped looking for her, but supposedly she was one of 3 individuals who were involved in disappearance. One of 3 young women who were missing in Norristown or that roughly area in the 80s, which apparently, as I was told, was the basis for the book and subsequent film, The Lovely Bones.
Yep.
Which, for those of you who may or may not have been from Southeastern PA, when that came out back when we were in high school, everybody was obsessed with that story because it was crazy. It was from this area. A lot of like weird things were going on. But yeah, so supposedly we may have an in to be able to talk about this story that happened basically in our backyard in the not too distant future.
Also, by the way, it just occurred to me because we were talking about this that Marguerite Kyoto, 22-year-old, last seen walking home from a dance on March 3rd, 1954. Right over there.
Really?
Yeah. Like literally our backyard.
Yeah.
So there's a number of things we can probably cover. Like there's one that's actually called the Mainline Murders.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, there's also the what school district was it? This was in the 70s or the 80s, but one of the teachers and one of the administrators were involved in some like murder conspiracy, and they were like attempting to run off together. There was a book about that. It was not the school my dad went to, but the school district he was in, because he went to Catholic school.
Weird.
Yeah.
Which is not too dissimilar from the situation with the boy in the box.
Yes.
The parents who allegedly, actually everybody in their family is dead now. The parents who adopted and then killed him, I was able to track them down. They like worked for Lower Merion School District.
Yeah.
Yeah, and lived in Fox Chase.
I would not be shocked if that was more tied together than the people may believe.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember what the time period was?
It was, I think it was a little after Boy in the Box, actually.
Well, they didn't, nobody found out they did it.
Fair.
There was it was wild. There's allegations like a satanic pedophile ring, like, but in a not like a QAnon way, like their own daughter accused them of this way.
Yeah.
Satanic rituals going on in a basement.
The more time I spend alive and sentient on this earth, the more I realize how insane just everything is.
Oh yeah, nothing's normal.
No.
We're all pretending that life is a normal thing where weird stuff doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, and no, weird stuff's the baseline.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have nearly run out of weird stuff.
I think we just need to look a little harder.
Well, here's the thing, like, and on the one hand, sometimes it's like, oh, this is really weird, and then there's no information about it.
Yeah, that's probably the most annoying bit.
I read through probably 40% of missing 411 in Western United States today. There's not much weird in there. Like, the one thing that was weird is I finally got to Paul Fugit, and I was like, well, covered that one.
Yep. What about, and you guys can give us immediate feedback.
I'm going to be honest, I was sort of looking for a case that would let me talk about skinwalkers.
Fair. Understandable so.
Because I got to trick the YouTube algorithm into thinking it's a true crime video.
Yes. For those of you in the audience right now, you could give immediate feedback. Thoughts on if we essentially just go through all of the missing 411 cases relatively rapidly and just show how not weird they actually are, and finally kind of put the final nail in the coffin within the next year on missing 411?
That would just be a really long version of the Pennsylvania cluster video, the first one. Because it was like, I was going through it and I'm like, that's normal, that's normal. There are a few, granted. There was one out in, I think it was, I want to say Wyoming, a little bit east of Yellowstone. If I'm remembering correctly, it was in a place called Green River Lakes. And it was a 16-year-old girl. Last person to see her was her twin brother. She was walking across a footbridge in this nature area. They found her clothes a little bit later, like down the same path, and she was nowhere to be seen. They never found her.
Every response, which is a couple dozen in the last minute, has said, please do it for proving the missing 411, cluster is not anywhere near as weird as everybody.
We are going to get so much hate from a specific few people.
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
I could almost do that just sitting there with the book open. Just be like, yeah, so in this one, they said it was weird that this 74-year-old was walking on an isolated trail 50 miles from civilization, having told nobody where they went, and then they got lost. They were never found.
In 1974.
Yeah. It's just like cardiac event, mountain lion, bear, wolf, any number of things.
Pretty much Murphy's Law, just at all.
And that thing is like, I will admit one weird one is the Maurice Doc-Demetz case. I was looking at covering that one, but I'm having trouble finding enough material. Because that's one of the other things is like, somehow, shockingly, for most of the Great Smokies cases, I was able to find a buttload of information. Like, I was able to find so much documentation. I don't know why. But for most of those cases, there was enough for me to make a 35 to 50 minute video without even talking about the history of the area.
I have an idea why.
Why?
Because
I mean contemporary coverage. Like newspaper coverage.
No, that's my point, is that so like a lot of these events that were going on, you think about the fact that like most national parks here are still relatively close to civilization, and civilization has essentially been more developed here, even though not by a huge margin, but enough of a margin where everything is a lot closer together, everything is a lot more developed than anything out west.
Right.
So like national parks out there, you could be 100 miles away from the nearest real town, whereas here, you're really only going to be like 10.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is like there's not a ton of big national parks on this side of the country. It really is just Great Smoky Mountains.
And even that, by comparison to everything out west, is tiny.
Yeah, although it's dense as hell.
Yeah.
I did see one in the National Park Cold Case Files that I'm going to take a look at as well. That I was like, ooh, Great Smokies. That might actually have coverage of it. For once. Because I've been struggling, Aiden. I have been struggling. But one thing I have not been struggling with is finding documentation on the Brianna Maitland and Maura Murray cases. Oh my God. There is so much. The one set of dudes has done like 150 podcast episodes on the Maura Murray case.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How look,
I have no idea. I am not trying to impugn their honor in any way. Just I don't understand how 150 episodes?
We've barely done more than that on almost every case that we have covered.
Yeah, that's so much. I would love to talk to those guys, honestly, or Greg Overacker. Tim and Lance were the guys with the Maura Murray case one. I don't remember
it might
their
be
last
worth
names.
reaching out to them before we tackle that case at some point in the future.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, when I was looking at doing the Maura Murray case, I was like, first of all, I've unfortunately boxed myself into a point where I feel like if I don't have the most comprehensive video on a subject that exists, I have done something wrong. I cannot do that with Maura Murray.
Yeah.
There is simply too much. That said, what I did find very interesting, looking into that case and then looking into the Brianna Maitland case, is, first of all, they are oddly similar in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But as I remember, if you remember when I started looking at it, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a video is there a serial killer in Vermont? Or was there a serial killer in Vermont that they didn't catch? And I kind of came to the conclusion pretty quickly that no, I don't think there was. These two women were from completely different places. One was from northern Vermont. One was from Massachusetts. What's the likelihood? And the linchpin for Greg Overacker, the PI who investigated Brianna Maitland's disappearance, the linchpin for him is that Brian Rooney, and he doesn't say it was Brian Rooney, but he says it. He heavily implies it was Brian Rooney. I don't think there's any doubt that he's talking about Brian Rooney.
So he implies that Brian Rooney was responsible for Mara Murray and Brianna Maitland, kind of like how David Paulides implies that Bigfoot is responsible for missing 411.
Yes, but his argument's a hell of a lot more realistic. But yes, same kind of like, I'm not going to say it's Bigfoot. Not saying it was aliens. But there was another woman whose name is escaping me right now. The woman he actually got caught for. But who maybe I'm reading too much into the fact that serial killers typically have a more consistent MO.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian Rooney's situation, I struggle to see how he could have been responsible for both of them, aside from the fact that Mara and Brianna disappeared within a month of each other, basically. I think people, and this is something that I even saw in the comments on the video, Brianna made some bad decisions. But she didn't make stupid decisions, if that makes sense. Like, yes, doing crack is a stupid decision. But aside from that one, the information is that she was a very intelligent young woman. She had her head on her shoulders. She was actively trying. I found this in a newspaper article after I finished the video, because I mostly used the book for that one. She was actively trying to get off of drugs. Mm-hmm. She had picked up 2 jobs. Like, she was making better and better decisions.
She had made some poor decisions based on her circumstances, not because she was an idiot, but because she was in some pretty tough circumstances.
Because she was a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's the other thing is, like, yeah, she was a kid, but there were also these, late 20s guys from out of town who were preying on these kids and convincing them to do drugs. Like, first of all, I gotta say, the Vermont State Police, I know Overacker was very complimentary of them regarding how they handled things after the first couple of months, but man, you find a guy who has been selling crack to children. You find him with a minor in the home with guns, marijuana, cocaine, crack, all of these different substances, and you let him off with 45 days time served? No, lock him up. Throw away the key. Don't sell crack to kids.
I will say, I think that was because I remember. So I didn't mention this in the video because I wasn't really in it. I guess other than the cold open. Hi. I have had contact with a Vermont officer from that time period, from a previous job ages ago, things like that. I think that was a representation of the results of the legal precedents at the time, because I know they were, as law enforcement, were really cracking down on crack. That was not intended to be upon, but here we are. But he said there were a lot of instances where they just had to let people go, even though it was basically cut and dry.
Yeah, because the justice system is not just the police.
Exactly.
But then I see something like, Trooper Farva here, as we've taken to calling him.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, the boyfriend story is sketchy as all hell. This state trooper pulled up and saw a car backed into a home, saw and reported seeing obvious signs of a struggle. Broken necklace, cup of change spilled out, lime wedge on the trunk for some reason.
Did you say it was squeezed?
Yes.
Okay.
Did not search the area, didn't search the house, didn't call for backup, didn't say, hey, I've got something weird. Basically looked at it, saw paychecks made out to Brianna Maitland from the Black Lantern Inn, went, checked to see if the Black Lantern Inn was open. It wasn't, and then he went on vacation.
I think I missed that detail. He went on vacation?
Yeah, he had a long weekend. Went on vacation.
Okay.
Yeah, so didn't report any of it. Like, didn't file his paperwork before he left. Is it likely that Brianna Maitland would have been found if he had filed his paperwork on time? No, absolutely not. But it does not give me confidence in the police.
That's the thing. Is like, even though it was unlikely that would have made the difference, it's not impossible that it would have.
But then that's the thing, is we see this over and over and over again across the country, even up into Canada.
Especially up in Canada.
Yeah, especially up in Canada. I mean, the Amber Tuccaro case is a big example of that we've talked about ad nauseum, where, I mean, it was so obvious to everybody immediately that this woman was abducted and probably murdered. And the RCMP was like, oh, no. Looks like she might have just gone out shopping. No. You look at Brianna Maitland. What? I found this mysteriously abandoned car with all of these things that would suggest this person didn't leave of their own free will. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to call that in. I mean, you get up to Mara Murray, it's one of the few times that they've actually bothered to have any sort of response. And even then, they were like, well, there was an open bottle of alcohol in the car, so she probably deserves it, I guess. Like,
yeah, the standards for, like, well-curated police care.
What if it was your daughter?
Yeah.
I mean,
look, being a police officer is a very difficult job, but we're not talking about necessarily, like, beat cops here and people who are pulling traffic stops and have to worry about, like, you know, whether or not they're going to get shot when they ask somebody to roll down the window. We're talking about detectives who...
A state trooper who came across an abandoned car.
Yeah, like...
In an abandoned lot.
Like, the things that are not high-risk scenarios, generally, it's more just, like, lack of care, lack of initiative.
I will say there is one thing that bugs me about the Brianna Maitland case.
What's that?
Jillian Stout's father.
Why that specifically?
Why didn't he notice that Brianna wasn't there?
Jillian was
the friend she was staying with.
Yes.
Which one newspaper... And here's the thing. It's very weird, the reporting on this. No reporting mentions that she lived with her dad, except for one article I found, and it was in Overacker's book.
I was going to say, yeah, I thought they were roommates for college or something.
No, Stout was still in high school. So either Jillian Stout was living alone, and this is, I ended up having to rewrite this out of the script. Either Jillian Stout was living alone, and in that case, first, did Brianna not know that she was leaving for the weekend? She left a note behind. Why leave a note behind if you know that she's leaving for the weekend? So did Brianna not know she was leaving for the weekend? And if the idea is that she pulled over to meet somebody to pick up drugs or something, why do that on the side of a rural highway when you've got an entire house to yourself?
I mean, I will say, like, generally you wouldn't want to invite drug dealers into your home, even if it is.
But that's the thing, is like she was already making those bad decisions.
Fair, but I can understand not making that one.
Yeah. But even still, like, why so far from home in an abandoned field?
I mean, to me, that makes more sense than anywhere near your house.
I guess.
Especially if it was somebody, like, from her perspective, where she was trying to get off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, given the scenario, the fact that she's trying to get off of it alone leads me to be suspicious of the fact that she would have met up for drugs anywhere.
Yeah.
But I can certainly understand that people who partake are still cautious enough to be like, hey, I'm here for the product. I don't need you knowing where I live.
Yeah.
And, like, that house feels like it'd be a good drug house.
That's the thing, is just from reading about it, it doesn't sound like people were making that distinction.
That's fair.
Maybe they were, maybe it was somehow a more intelligent choice, but even then, I don't know, it just bugs me. The location bugs me. But yeah, so anyway, point is, if Jillian Stout was living with her father, though, Why did he not report Brianna missing?
The only thing I can think of is that this was a normal scenario for her to not show up.
She'd only been living there for like a month.
That's the thing, is like if she's really out partying a lot.
But that was that from what I understand is at the time she ever since that assault, she hadn't been. And that's the other thing I don't get is the police just, there's no explanation for why in this case the police, knowing that just under a month before this disappearance, there had been a fight over a boy between two teenage girls, and they didn't follow those leads.
No, yeah, there's no good reason for that.
And on the one hand, if the police are going to come out and say, all right, well, actually, we did follow those leads. We checked up on their alibis. We were able to prove definitively that Keely LaCrosse was at her parents' house watching a movie with them at the time this happened. We were able to find people who corroborated that this James guy, who I learned died in a car crash years later, we were able to prove that he was, in fact, at a party in Canada when Brianna was last seen. Because, again, if he could prove he was in Canada, he could prove he was in Canada, and then he couldn't have been responsible. But that's not what they say. I haven't found anything. Overacker didn't say police tracked down James and figured out that he was, in fact, at that party. No, his story changed. And yet it's somehow we're ruling out in my opinion, the most likely suspects. If she was with James at the time that she allegedly hooked up with this other guy, then he has motive. Keely, it's her boyfriend. She has motive. These two people have both been cheated. Where were they on the night of these events? It doesn't help when you tell me that, first of all, James continued to have problems later in life, and that Keely went on to bite somebody after breaking into their home. Just 6 years later. She bit somebody, Aiden. She broke into somebody's home and bit them.
Yeah, you can't.
And this is where Overacker's logic just broke down to me to an extent, because he's like, yeah, I don't think she did it because... And I kind of like, in the video, I tried to say this. And again, I'm not trying to say Overacker's stupid or he's wrong or anything. I would love to hear his explanation face to face. She expresses no remorse. She is interviewed over and over again and never once is like, yeah, that was probably a mistake. I wish I could go back and undo it. No. Over something as stupid as a teenage relationship that obviously, based on the way this group of people was dating each other constantly, really didn't mean much to anybody. She's still mad 6, 7, 8 years later? That's not a stable person.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like teenagers considering it the end of the world when a relationship goes south or something bad happens, that tracks. That makes sense. But keeping that anger that long?
In your late 20s.
Yeah, that
2012, she would have been 26 years old.
Yeah, and generally by that point, you're starting to mature at least, if not have already, substantially matured far more than you were a teenager.
I don't think I'm still angry at anybody from high school.
Yeah.
Well, there's the one guy, but he's dead. I told you about this.
Ringing a bell, but yeah, anyway. Do you want to give any context to that so people aren't like concerned?
I have a valid reason.
I meant more the why he's dead.
Oh, he did drugs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Unless you're him. I don't feel bad about this.
This is fair.
You're going to remember what he did, and then you're going to be like, oh, right.
I'm thinking I have an idea, but I'm not totally sure. Either way, it's not something I'm going to say right now.
Yeah. So, no. So, like, I look at the Keely LaCrosse situation, and again, maybe the cops didn't say what they knew, but based on what I've been able to come up with, they just kind of went, probably not her. And they chased down this Raymond Ryans guy, and, obviously he's not a good dude. He just gets off. They let him off. He leaves the state. he was selling crack to children. How did he get let off?
Yeah, that's insane.
At a certain point, obviously this is tragic, and whatever happened to Brianna, it is somebody's fault. But at the same time, when you as a justice system allow that kind of thing, nobody takes you seriously. There's no longer any punishment. I'm not even sure that they checked the car for fingerprints. We know they didn't do anything to the car before they towed it. They destroyed a crime scene. I mean, how do you show up and you see this? Again, car backed into a house hard enough to get hung up on the foundation and break through the wall. You have broken necklace on the ground. You have obvious signs of a struggle. And you tow it? Also, they didn't ask the FBI to get involved.
I was going to say, not just towing it, but also not calling anybody to review the scene prior to.
Yeah, we're like 20 miles from the Canadian border. This isn't just interstate. This is international.
Yeah.
She could very easily have been in Canada. And they didn't call the FBI. They didn't call Border Patrol.
And she was 17 at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
and she's a minor.
Yeah, exactly. So that technically would
every single box is checked for FBI involvement, including guns and drugs. Every single box is checked for FBI involvement, and they don't ask. And we see that again and again and again and again across the country in a lot of these unsolved mysteries where somebody goes missing. It's pretty obviously a criminal situation, and the local police are too up their own asses to bother calling in the big guns. I hate the FBI. I hate three-letter agencies. I rail about this constantly. The only three-letter agency I'm okay with is the National Park Service.
Mm-hmm.
Call the FBI.
Well, that's the other thing, because there are a lot of reasons why cops might not investigate certain things. One of the top ones being there's not enough evidence. This probably isn't going to be, a closed case. It's going to look bad on my record, things like that. At that point, if you call the FBI, that's not on your record. It's not a case you couldn't solve. It's a case they couldn't solve.
Which is why part of me wonders if maybe there was more to this on the police side.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, what I genuinely do think the most likely situation is that somebody her own age is responsible for this. And maybe they only meant to scare her. And then maybe something went wrong. And they, because I will say that much. It seems unlikely to me that James would have deliberately killed her.
I agree, not contradicting your point at all, but the whole I went and turned off the car and the lights thing is weird.
And that's where I think maybe they meant to run her off, or maybe they just meant to scare her, freak her out, as revenge, just bother her. And then something went wrong. Maybe Kiali snapped. Maybe, maybe they were wrestling her out of the car because they decided to take it a little bit further and something went wrong. Hit her head. Who knows? And then they went, oh shit, gotta clean this up. But the thing that really does stick in my head throughout the entire case is James showing up, turning off the car's lights, closing the door, getting home, and then not saying anything for days. And his excuse was, I didn't want to get caught drinking and driving. Okay, go home. You're home? Cool. A friend drove you. Which friend? I don't want to tell you. Or, you know what, officer, to be honest, I had been drinking. You're not under arrest, James. They can't use that against you. Your Miranda rights haven't been read. You are not under arrest. Therefore, they can't use that against you in a court of law. They can come back and ask you, at which point you plead the fifth, so as to not get in trouble for drinking and driving. He should have gotten home, and the very first thing he should have done was call 911 and say, hey, I just found my girlfriend's car. She's not in it. It's backed into a house, and the lights were blinking. Or at the very least, you come across it and you go, that's pretty messed up. I should leave those lights on so that somebody does the right thing and calls the authorities.
Yeah.
Now, it's definitely unfortunate that a whole bunch of other people drove past and didn't call the cops. But that's neither here nor there. The big one is James to me. I in my head, there is no way in which James is not involved in this. And that's why I'm having trouble, I think, with the Brian Rooney aspect. Yeah, he could have been involved. There was talk of an older man, but from what I understand, nobody ever pointed to Brian Rooney. So why are we saying it was him? I think maybe Overacker knows more than he's let on. Maybe I just need to sit down with the guy, but I don't know. I can't get past James. I think he has to be involved.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, really quickly, I do want to make an announcement. For everybody who's in the chat, who's been super chatting, thank you so much for doing so. But just want to let you know that we will be answering super chats that have been sent prior to 8 p.m. So you still have about 15 minutes to get in any questions or comments that you have and want us to see. But after 8 p.m., we're going to cut off super chats for the evening, so that way we can make sure we get through them in a timely manner, and we're not here for 2.5 hours after that point and make our significant others very annoyed with the fact that we take so long.
Yes.
We appreciate your understanding, and I wanted to make sure that we got that message out with enough time for you to be able to ask any questions you had. But anyway, yeah, back to that. I do agree that given the scenario, that makes a lot of sense that he would be involved. It almost makes no sense for him to not be involved in some way. And also just in terms of the many people driving by, it is a shame that the bystander effect is something so prevalent.
And maybe that's the key to some of this is more of the, if you see something, say something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that should be a lot more common. I know there are a lot of places that do push that, like the MTA, how much they have done that over the many decades that they've now done that for. I know it pays off a lot. It's the Metropolitan Transport Authority in New York.
Gotcha.
Yeah, specifically like subways and things like that. They have had, I don't know how long it's been, but their motto is if you see something, say something. And it stems from a lot of crime that was happening at a specific time, and it essentially was caused by the bystander effect. Nobody was reporting anything. And they really started pushing that, and to my understanding, it did help.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't know. Maybe it's because it was a rural community where there were already drug issues and people weren't trusting of each other. I can't really imagine. I mean, I see a car on the side of the road with just the white towel in it, and I check, like I look out my window to see, like, is there a person inside of that car? Like, just because if I saw a car in a ditch with its blinkers on, empty, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to call somebody about that. That doesn't look right. Why did people not have that thought? And the other weird thing with Mara Murray, they did.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that really messes with my head here. Why in this specific case do you have multiple people pass by that car and say nothing? Mara Murray, multiple people stop. Now it's weird that the person who is described as being outside of that car, when they asked witnesses, they were like, they showed them a picture of Mara Murray and they were like, that's not who I saw. That's weird. Gonna look into that for sure. But man, it makes you think that something weird is going on in Vermont.
Well, at that time, there definitely was, especially in that area. I don't know if the area that Mara Murray was in had such a prevalent drug problem, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It was pretty rural. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that if in Brianna's area, a lot of the people had essentially the mentality of, let sleeping dogs lie, because if that is drug related, you don't want to get mixed up in that.
Yeah.
So that does make sense in my mind.
Yeah. I just think, especially in cases with missing women too. I think there is a tendency when it's a man to just assume something bad already happened. What I don't understand is when you have a woman, there should be more attention paid. I mean, when a man goes missing, even in a situation like that, like Michael Malinowski, I think is the name, the Pennsylvanian. They find his car, similar situation, just abandoned on the side of a road, some stuff in it, some stuff not in it. And they're like, well, he probably jumped off a cliff.
Oh,
Yeah. Into the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. You look at the Mara Murray, the Brianna Maitland. In those cases, I feel like there's a good reason to investigate it more closely. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't investigate the disappearances of men. I'm just saying that we shouldn't treat them the same way, I guess. And I feel like in this situation, they were treated the same way.
so essentially you're saying that women disappearing deserves more scrutiny.
In a weird way, yeah. Because men don't get trafficked as much. We do. Not as much. And when it's that close to an international border, one that is not particularly well monitored because it was Canada in 2004, you could get across with a driver's license at the time. That seems like trafficking should have been the first thing on anybody's mind. And you look at it and it's not. They don't, maybe it was drugs. Maybe she ran away. Maybe she was murdered. There's a border right there.
Well, I guess the one thing that comes to my mind was trafficking as in the public consciousness at that point as it is now?
Probably not, but if you're the police, it should be.
Should be, yes.
But, and I think that's what's been bugging me as I look over these cases is women and men are being treated the same way in cases where I don't think they should be. I think if you find that a man has disappeared, foul play is probably going to be murder. Even if it's an abduction, it's probably going to be murder. With a woman, it's probably going to be trafficking, which should change the way you look at it. Amber Tuccaro, I think, was probably a trafficking victim, and maybe something went wrong. Maybe they decided that, it was too dangerous to keep her, whatever reason, they decided to get rid of her. You rarely see instances of, I guess I should say rarely see, but it is more frequent that women are kidnapped for trafficking or abuse than it is that they're just kidnapped to be randomly killed. And especially when you're not talking about serial killers. With men, there aren't that many reasons to kidnap a man, unless you're going to hold him for ransom or you're getting revenge for something. So I think I probably didn't articulate this as well as I could have at the beginning, but I think a big problem in these cases is you have police that aren't very well trained, that are looking at everything as a homicide. Brianna, I don't think if she was abducted, I don't think it would have been for the purpose of killing her. It would have been for other purposes. Now, if you look at the situation with James and Kiali, then I'm thinking homicide. But I notice over and over again, the investigation always seems to point towards homicide and not trafficking. And I think that might be a pretty big mistake. If a woman disappears and she's not found in the immediate area, she's probably not in the immediate area. It took them a long time to get an APB out. It took them an even longer time to get her face on national television. By the time they did, she could have been out of the country. So I think what I see with these cases is the moment you find out that a woman has gone missing, it should be plaster their face everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be treated like a homicide investigation where you don't want the perpetrator to know you're onto them.
Yeah.
Because to traffic somebody, that you have to take them out in public. And you might say, oh, well, that once the trafficker knows that somebody's onto them, they might just kill the person. Unfortunately, with trafficking, if the person gets away with the person they've abducted, chances are you're not going to find them.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a catch-22. It's a difficult situation. But I wonder, had they put out Brianna's face earlier, might somebody have seen something? Especially at a port of entry. Obviously, in her case, because again, I really think Canada has to do with this specific case. She's so close to the border. I think they should have looked into trafficking earlier. I think that officer that found her that morning, that found the car that morning, it should have immediately been, hey, Border Patrol, do you guys have a missing girl? Like, did somebody cross the border who looked uncomfortable? A young woman. It should have been, let's find out everything we can about this girl. Who are her parents? Who are her friends? who might know something. And instead, they waited days. They barely searched the area. They did not question the staff at the Black Lantern. I mean, at every single stage of the investigation, it failed. Man, I have a headache.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. My tooth's hurting pretty bad.
Yeah.
I got my...
I can't think straight right now. I'm not even sure if I'm making sense.
No, you are.
I think I have a migraine.
No, you 100% are. Yeah, I got my...
I'm like, I keep saying things. I'm like, I'm not even sure I agree with what I just said.
No, it's all been making sense so far. Also, yeah, I got my anchors off for my Invisalign this week, and it seems that one of the teeth they took them off from, they put the grinder on a little bit too hard.
Ooh.
And yeah, now top left here, can't drink anything cold. Initially couldn't drink anything cold. Now it's also getting sensitive to hot, and now today it's actually just starting to hurt.
Oh, good.
So I called them and they said there's nothing they can do about it. So I got to call my dentist tomorrow morning and call to get that filled.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But anyway, no, I agree with everything you were saying. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of this comes down to most likely training for local and state police departments.
Yeah.
Because I know one of the things I did in my previous job is we actually did a video series for the DOJ. And it was a guy who...
The Department of Jeb?
Yes. But it was a guy who had initially worked at... it was in Delaware. It was he had worked at that police office precinct that we were doing some of the filming at. And then he was in the Marines for a while. He served in the Secret Service for a while. And then he became an instructor for this kind of national thing. I can't remember what it was called. But it was amazing that some of the things that you would think were generally basic training information were some of the things that they were really going over, because they were trying to increase all levels of training for department-wide members, from even just logistics handling people to the officers on the streets themselves. And the goal was to minimize violent confrontations for a variety of different reasons, to save officers' lives and civilians' lives. But even just things like printing, for officers to figure out whether or not someone has a gun on them based on their clothing, was something that was being covered. Just general tactics for handling individuals on the street when you are, prior to interrogation, just trying to get information from somebody who you may not be certain or even suspicious of yet, just to find a way to do something like that. This was like 3 years ago. Imagine what the state of police training back then was.
Well, but here's the other thing. I don't feel like it's getting better.
Because they're not getting the funding.
At a certain point, I feel like you don't even need to fund it. You can just go, hey guys, remember that time they screwed that up really bad? Don't do what they did. Like, at a certain point, it's just, at leadership. Like, why is the police captain, when something like this happens, not harping on it for their staff?
For the same reason that Alex Hunter was not prosecuting cases.
Yeah,
that's the downside, is that, like, there are a lot of people in this nation, not everybody by any stretch of the imagination. There are great people out there, but there are a lot of people who are much more concerned about keeping their job consistent and their paycheck consistent rather than doing the right thing, which I'm not going to pretend I don't understand. But at a certain point, you have to be able to put the right foot forward and do the right thing.
I just... Sebastian Rogers. How, after JonBenet Ramsey, after Brianna Maitland, after, countless others, just so many other cases, the Boy in the Box even, the Boy in the Box thing was blown open before Sebastian disappeared. After all of these things, how is it that you still don't know how to control a crime scene? How is it that this kid is reported missing? It's immediately an Amber Alert. It was not immediately, but within a few hours, it was an Amber Alert. The police show up to the house. They do not detain the parents. They do not bring them in for questioning. They do not secure the home and make sure that nobody enters or exits. They allow people to clean up. They allow the family to clean up before they fully investigate it. They do not get scent tracking dogs out there. They get ground disturbance dogs. At every single point in that morning, they failed. every single spot along the way. You allowed the only person who was in the home when it happened, the mother, you allow her to leave town 20 days later. 2024. This is a year ago. And they've learned nothing. At what point do you sit back and say there's a serious problem here? Maybe the FBI needs some more funding.
Well, so
maybe you give them the money to say, hey, you're going to go to every single county in the country and do a lecture on this.
So that's what the project that I was involved in, that was part of their goal. But I'm realizing that a good thing for us to potentially look into, what is the actual level of training that local and state departments receive?
From what I understand, it's minimal.
Well, that's my point, is that it may just be in a position where all of these cases we're looking at are things that are not covered in basic training for these agencies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm overzealous about it. Maybe I'm emotional because I've been involved in researching so many of these lately. But at a certain point, the way I see it is a child disappears from a home under mysterious circumstances without witnesses and the parents don't have alibis. They should be suspects immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It should not be a matter of trying to coddle them or figure out if they're guilty first. Make them suspects. Treat them like suspects. Yeah, it's going to suck if they're not. But at the same time, how many cases do we have to look at?
That is the one downside of innocent proven guilty.
But that's the thing is, you're not arresting them. You're not throwing them in jail. You're not saying they're guilty. You're just saying, I'm not going to do what we did with John Ramsey. I'm not going to do what we did with Chris Proudfoot. I'm not going to do what we did with Dear Koontz. I mean, with few exceptions, when we've looked at cases where kids disappeared, it seems very likely that the last person to see them alive was the person who did something to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too common. There's too much at stake. If a child disappears, look at the parents, especially if it's from the home.
Very Steve Thomas of you. Or no, not Steve Thomas.
Yeah, Rob Walker.
Rob Walker, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Brianna, who was the last person to see her? It was James. Suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Biza, last person to see him was a seminarian. Suspect. Actually turned out to, in fact, be a guy who was later caught for molesting children. John Ramsey, suspect. Chris Proudfoot, suspect. If you save even one kid, it's worth it. Yeah, you've put a family through the ringer,
mm-hmm.
but I think when they sit down and you explain it to them and you say, look, we've had too many cases where we didn't move quickly enough to look at the parents or to look at whoever the last person to see the child was. And because we don't want to have that happen again,
mm-hmm.
we had to look at you like this.
Their brief inconvenience is not worth the life of the child.
Yeah. And I think most parents, at the end of the day, it might be frustrating in the moment, but they probably will, when all is said and done, appreciate it. Obviously, it becomes different when you hone in on the parents and you ignore everything else. But the first people to be cleared should be the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying don't look at anybody else, but why are we a year into the Sebastian Rogers case, and Chris and Katie have not been cleared yet? To me, that suggests exactly one thing: they can't be. JonBenet Ramsey case. The parents were literally never cleared. One DA was like, we apologize, you're in the clear. And then the following DA was like, no, they're not cleared. They're not cleared. I don't know what Mary Lacey was on about, but they're not cleared.
Mm-hmm.
How many times does it have to happen?
That's the $1 million question.
And it would be different. It's different if you're, you go inside for a second, your kid is playing out on the front lawn, you have a Ring camera, and the Ring camera catches a car passing by and, somebody getting out and grabbing your kid. Don't look at the parent there. But if a kid is playing in the backyard, disappears, the last person to see them was a parent, and it's a fenced-in backyard, I mean, a great example of this just popped back up and is trying to make a comeback in the public image department, and it's Casey Anthony.
Yeah, which is amazing, because how in God's name can you make a comeback from that?
I have no idea how she's not in prison.
Neither do I.
That would have been an obvious one to look at. That would have been a very obvious case.
Still can.
Oh, God.
Look, hey,
now, be a rough few days.
Now we have the next 3 weeks ready to go.
That's true. Speaking of the next 3 weeks, I need to not have my girlfriend hate me for them, so we should probably get to Super Chats.
Yes, I agree. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the Super Chats, and we are going to dive into the first one from the start of the show, which is from Gom, who's been a member for 21 months. Thank you very much. Saying, Mattis, have you looked into the microbial bug outbreak in Indonesia? It happened in the 90s, and it's a really interesting story, good video topic. It's a specific type of microbial bug, specifically a microbial SEX bug. Don't know what that entails, but it could be interesting.
Apparently there was an anthrax outbreak in Indonesia.
Interesting.
In fact, apparently this is a second one. It happened in 2023 too. Indonesia, you good? All right. So what was it? It was a
microbial.
You can say sex.
You know what? I'm trying to be as PG as possible. Yeah, microbial sex bug outbreak happened in the 90s. I don't know.
I'm gonna need more details on that because I'm shocker when you look up microbial sex bug Indonesia, you don't get a short list of things.
I bet. Well, anyway, in the meantime, Missy J gave us $20. Thank you very much. Saying, new patron here was wondering if you'd look into the suspected serial killer Larry Dwayne Hall. Lots of victims may be tied to him, but only by unsubstantiated and recanted confessions. Would be interested in your perspective.
Larry Dwayne Hall. All right. Education, high school diploma. He has mutton chops. Not gonna lie, he kind of looks like Pudgy Isaiah with mutton chops.
That's shocking, actually. I don't know how to feel about that.
All right. Wow, what a Wikipedia overview. Larry Dwayne Hall is an American kidnapper, rapist, murderer, and suspected serial killer. An aficionado of the American Revolution and Civil War, Hall traveled around the Midwest for historical reenactments and is believed to have abducted, assaulted, tortured, and murdered dozens of girls and women.
We absolutely should look into this, and wow.
I am going to have so many euphemisms in this video.
That's not a very good representative for the historical community right there, so you would be a good person to help balance it out.
That's true. He's confessed to more than 35 murders, but recanted them all. However, authorities believe he could be responsible for the deaths and disappearances of between 40 and 50 young women.
What?
Which would place him amongst the most prolific serial killers in American history.
Yeah.
Serial killers with the highest known count. Let's go with curious. I want to find the United States on this. Actually, no, I want to go with number of proven victims.
Yeah, I'm writing this guy down.
Oh, well, the biggest one is Russia, which is Radik Tagirov, who has 31. 32 plus. Oh, that's the low end.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
What?
Top of the list is a Colombian guy.
Yeah.
Take a guess how many proven victims.
I'm gonna guess like 160. Really?
193.
Jesus.
Suspected of 194 to 300 plus.
Oh my God.
Trying to find what the highest in American history is. Samuel Little appears to be the highest. 60 victims. Allegedly 93. You guys will be happy to know that the United States is not at the top of the list here. Gary Ridgway I've actually heard of.
I mean, I know you want to stick away from true crime, but doing deep dives on serial killers might actually be really interesting.
I actually would find that interesting. That's the sad part.
So would I. I did a whole, like, project on Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold in high school.
I thought this guy's name was Moses Shithole. It's Moses Sithole.
Amazing. Yeah, I would
might be worth doing one on Jack the Ripper too, because that one actually is still unsolved.
No, they solved it.
No, they didn't.
Didn't they?
No, one guy has been saying he knows who it is for the last 12 years.
No, I thought they like ran a DNA test and they figured it out through genetics who it was.
If we're talking about the same thing, the same one, did it turn out to be a Jewish guy?
A Polish immigrant who lived in Whitechapel.
What was his name?
Aaron Kosminski.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, this was just this year, like in February.
I'll look into it because I feel like I remember looking into that briefly and being like, oh, okay, so it's not actually proven, it's alleged.
Fair. But yeah, worth looking into. I would be so down to go into serial killers.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Guess we're doing serial killers now.
Nice.
What's the meme? The supply, the factory line meme where it's like, guess we're making such and such now?
I'm not familiar,
Okay.
believe it or not.
I'm going to pull it up for you.
Fair enough. While you do that, Chimp with a Hand Grenade says, Flaw has a dono goal of 1K for him to wear a maid dress. Help us, Mattis, do a Wendigoon. I guess we're doing circles now. Incredible.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling.
Hang on, wait. Show that to your camera.
Why is it so choppy? There we go. It's not really visible. You do it. My hair is such a mess right now. I look like the aliens guy.
It's fitting.
It's getting cut on the 23rd.
Did you hear?
I could do it?
Did you hear what Chimp said?
That out of context. That is wild question.
But did you hear what Chimp said?
What did he say?
He said Flaw has a dono goal of 1K for him to wear a maid dress. Help us, Mattis, do a Wendigoon.
I already did that.
When?
Years ago now.
No, not you wear one. Flaw has a donation goal.
For him to wear a maid dress.
For 1K. So they're saying...
Subscribers?
No, 1K in donations.
On his channel?
Yes. So...
That's probably something we can make happen.
That's the thing. They're saying do a Wendigoon.
Gotcha.
Like Wendigoon.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of which, Flaw and I stream on Friday nights, typically on each of our own respective channels. I helped him buy a computer so he could do it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a good man.
Tyler Dalrymple for 762, nice, said, great job on Red Thread, one of the best episodes by far, and you sounded about 60% less autistic than usual. Return when, love y'all. Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, but I want to.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. It went for 3 hours and 45 minutes. I believe it is officially the longest Red Thread episode.
That's impressive.
Well, to be fair, our Donner Party video is 2.5 hours long as it is.
Were you guys just reacting to the Donner Party video?
No, we were discussing the Donner Party, but
got it.
As it turns out, that is the most comprehensive documentary on the Donner Party that exists.
Shocker.
So Jackson was telling me that while he was like doing research and like taking notes to write the script for it, he basically just used our video because I wish he had told me that. I would have just sent him the transcript.
Yeah, but fair.
Would have saved him time. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. We already talked about me coming back to talk about a number of different things.
Nice.
I think Freemasonry was among them. Several other items that I can't totally remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I'll probably be back. I don't know exactly when, but I am a very big fan of that little crew.
Nice.
Also, did not know that the other guy, Jordan, was the one who his house got set on fire. Remember a couple years ago when there was news that a YouTuber in Australia got his house set on fire?
Oh, yeah.
That was him.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Damn.
Fun show, though.
Okay, though. Yeah, nice.
I had a good time.
Love to hear it.
Aussies are funny people. They have the reputation for it.
Do you know if they've watched The Big Les Show?
I don't. I would assume they have, but I was sitting there having the conversation and I'm like, oh man, you guys have, your sense of humor is still in 2006 and I appreciate that about you.
Careful, they might get you in trouble.
No, it was good. It was a good time.
Nice. Nextus says, hey guys, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Echo Warrior's been a member for a month.
Woo, thank you. I feel like you've been a member for longer than that.
Yeah, 100%. But
why does it keep doing this?
I don't know. YouTube hates us. A7XM Shadows 19 for $20 says, hail my brothers in Christ, with Easter being in a week and Sabaton
Hail.
releasing a new song about the Templars on the 24th.
Ready.
I
ready.
know you're ready. I say it is a great time to be a Christian. Mattis, what is your favorite faction in Bannerlord? God bless.
Ooh, in Vanilla Bannerlord, I play as Britannia. I play as Britannia with a Valandian twinge.
Nice.
Yeah. Recently, however, I've been playing the Realm of Thrones mod, which is so much fun. I need to get a Formations mod for it, though, because the vanilla Formations just ain't doing it. But there was a mod for Warband called A World of Ice and Fire, and I loved it so much. Realm of Thrones is such a good successor. It is so fleshed out, and it works with so many good mods. Although it does crash when you try and accept a marriage proposal, which is a problem when you're trying to build a dynasty. It's
also
fine.
Very fitting.
Yeah. I did prevent the Red Wedding. You can do that. Aiden, it's hard.
I would imagine so.
I got to that point in the game because I didn't know that was a thing you could do. So I got to that point in the game. There are a number of different things that you can stop, but that's one of them. The first time I got there, I was not properly outfitted for it, so I started a new playthrough.
Got it. I'm assuming it also was a surprise, as the Red Wedding usually is.
Oh, well, I knew it was coming. I just didn't know I'd be able to stop it. But yeah, they throw you into it's incredible in that moment in the game. And again, this is a sandbox RPG like tactical combat game. It's not Assassin's Creed. Your fighting is directional using your mouse.
Mm-hmm.
They throw you into a room where it randomly generates 5 Bolton soldiers.
Okay.
Sometimes they're light infantry with light armor. Sometimes they're in full plate. Depends on which time you get. I got through this mission 6 times, only for Robb Stark to get himself domed with a crossbow in the last 3 seconds.
Oh, no.
Or stabbed, or something. So I started a new game. And I spent the entire new game building my character for the sole purpose of stopping the Red Wedding. I get there. I died 6 times. Like, not me, actually. I didn't die once. Robb, however, just keeps getting himself got. So finally, I'm like, I changed up my whole strategy. I usually play with a sword and a shield, and then usually a bow and arrow or throwing axes or something. I got my smithing skill up, made myself one hell of a halberd, like a short halberd, basically like an axe with a halberd head, full plate armor head to toe, and a crossbow. And I just started laying into people. I cut them up, Aiden. I was merciless.
I love that you essentially created yourself your own prophecy.
What?
You created a scenario in which you developed a character specifically to fulfill one event.
Oh yeah, no, I was like, I'm not letting this happen.
Yes.
Now, however, I'm really curious what's going to happen because that's not how the book went.
Yeah.
And Stannis does his little thingy up at the wall, so I don't know if he's going to do that. Also, Stannis is getting his shit pushed in. Like in my playthrough, he like the Reach and the Stormlands, or the Reach and the Baratheons, not the real Baratheons, but Joffrey, have just been. First of all, they have utterly decimated the Riverlands.
Wait, at what point at the start of the game with this mod, where does it start you?
Right before Ned gets got.
Can you stop that?
No, that's day 6.
Got it.
You can't stop that one. You also can't stop Renly getting got. The first thing I've been able to stop was Robb.
What about can you stop King Baratheon from dying?
Well, you actually no, you can't stop Robb or Robert.
Robert, yeah.
No, he's done. Like from the start of the game, he's dead.
Got it.
What you can do actually is you can go down to the Crown Lands. You can hunt down Joffrey's party. You can then capture him, and then you can execute him.
Well, that's certainly cutting the head off the snake.
I've been considering doing that. It's just the problem is one time I did do a playthrough, and I did an oopsie where one thing you can do is you can, when you capture a lord or a lady, you can take all of their stuff. And I got Ygritte, and I was like, ooh, she's got a really cool bow. I want that bow. Give me the bow. It dropped my relationship with her clan to -100.
That tracks.
And then I got myself into a bit of a scuffle with Tormund. And then Tormund executed me, and my game was over because I didn't have kids.
That's
or a brother.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. So the first thing I did in each of my new playthroughs was I found Benjen Stark, and I made him a sworn brother so that he's part of my clan, so that if I die, I get to be Benjen.
Nice.
Anyway, that's how I'm doing things right now.
Love it.
Also, if you want to watch me play Call of Duty with the guys, you can do that on Friday nights at 6 p.m.
Fun.
Just another thing I do.
Yeah.
I can't redirect people to the streams anymore, so my stream viewership has dropped by 90%.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, guys, what I sacrificed for the premieres was my career as a video game streamer.
It happens.
It's fine.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I sometimes play not Pirates of the Caribbean. Basically that. We play Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, so it's pirates. And then sometimes I play a train game, because, that me.
Yep.
The Moistologist gave us $20.
What a name.
Echo Warrior gave us $20 and said, Mattis, how much to... hang on, this is... All right, give me a second here. Mattis, how much to have you, Stakuyi, and Roman Helmet Guy watch The Eagle with Channing Tatum and talk about how historically accurate it is? All jokes aside, finding out what happened to that legion is my nonstop rabbit hole.
I would love to do a video on that, but every time I do a video about history, YouTube says, no, you silly true crime boy. You can't do anything that's not true crime. So that's my problem that I'm having. As for that, Steven and I can definitely do that as a Patreon thing, probably for History Unhinged. I don't know about getting Roman Helmet Guy down here. Maybe. I don't know what his schedule looks like.
Yep, fair enough. Next, this gave us $10 to say, don't worry, boys, I'll walk into the woods to give your content.
Thank you.
It will be weird.
Thank you. You are doing us a great service. You will be remembered.
Rest in fame?
Rest in pieces, probably.
Yeah, most likely. Don't put yourself in harm's way for any reason.
Yeah, to be clear, don't actually do that.
Just in case it wasn't, common
Abundantly
sense.
clear.
Yeah. Gomb for $5 says 501 specifically. Love it. Says if I make it down the PA for Blobfest, can I fight Thornbussy to the death? I promise it'll be a really cool fight that'll be told in stories forever. I don't know what size you are, but I'm assuming you're taller than me, so I'd rather not. But we
can give you the foam swords.
Yeah, we could
You guys
nerf
can
it
duel.
out. Honestly, let's be fair. It's nerf or nothing.
Yeah.
So I'd be down.
Have you guys go out on the street with Nerf revolvers?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so down for
High
that.
noon, 10 paces.
Yep. It's kind of like what we're going to do with the props that we might get from the next show, except that one is a little bit more serious. Remember, we were going to figure out who really won the Civil War? Brother, your memory is not as good as it used to be.
What?
The Grant and Lee revolvers.
Oh, right. Yeah. We went to a gun show last week. Last week?
2 weeks ago.
2 weekends ago?
I think so.
My memory is so bad.
Well, because this past weekend was F1, so I think it was the previous weekend.
Well, I guess yeah. Okay, I see your point.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were there and we found Grant and Lee commemorative Colt 1851 navies.
Yep. Percussion revolvers too. Like
Percussion, like with the like cap and ball ammunition. And they came with like the actual bullet contraption.
Yeah, the little thing where you melt the lead and you can squeeze it into a ball, kind of like from the Patriot.
Yeah. So we agreed that since we can use those as decorations for the lodge, if they're there next time we go, we're going to buy them.
Yes.
And then not only that, but for Patreon, we're going to duel with them.
Yes.
To find out who really won the Civil War.
I've claimed the Grant one because I've always been really interested in Grant.
And I have claimed the Lee one because I'm racist. No. There was just 2 revolvers, and he called dibs on Grant, so I got Lee.
Well, also you
Lee
were like,
gets a bad rap too. He was.
The thing is, when we were there, you were like, because I'm a historian, I can get away with this, and he was actually a really like good tactician that gets overlooked because
of the side he fought on.
Yeah. So it kind of makes a lot more sense for you to have that.
Yeah. You can't be all rah-rah about Washington and Jefferson and then be mad at Lee for owning slaves.
Yeah, because then you're just a hypocrite.
Yeah. I don't agree with the side Lee fought for, just to be clear. But I understand, given the historical context of at the time, most people saw themselves as Virginian or Pennsylvanian or whatever people from Maine call themselves. Those things.
That's a great question.
Yeah, New Yorkers, like they saw themselves as their state before being American.
Mainlanders, maybe?
Maybe. But yeah, so for him, it was like, well, Virginia's my homeland. I'm not going to fight against my homeland.
Yeah. Yeah, people were a lot more territorial back then.
Yeah.
I mean, we still are, but...
Yeah, but it was... Lee gets a bad rap. He was an honorable man in a dishonorable time. Put it that way.
Yep. Yeah, you can be a good man fighting for a bad cause.
Mm-hmm. Like Rommel. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I am kidding.
I thought you were going to say MacArthur.
Are we supposed to disagree?
Sorry, I'm not trying to set you up right now. That is not what's happening.
Am I supposed to disagree with MacArthur?
That reminds me of
I'm not saying it was a good idea, but it wasn't an ineffective idea.
Was it Back to School with that clip of Rodney Dangerfield and Sam Kinison? Do you know who Sam Kinison was?
No.
So he was the comedian back in the 80s who had the really weird hair, was a little heavy, and just yelled.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The go where the food is guy?
Yeah, exactly. So in a movie for Rodney Dangerfield, I think Rodney Dangerfield, it was called Back to School. He was like going back to school for something, and like it was a college, but Dangerfield was in his like 60s.
Right.
And Kennison was a professor, and he was like clearly coked out of his mind. And he was just like berating Dangerfield. He was like, yeah, what do you have to say? Whatever. And Dangerfield is, because they were talking about the Vietnam War, no, the Korean War. And he like keeps pressing Dangerfield, and he's like, what do you think about it? What? And Dangerfield's like, I think MacArthur was right. We should have bombed the hell out of him. And then Kennison was just like, I like the way you think. I'm going to keep an eye on you. It was just like, and then it goes back to Rodney Dangerfield. He's like, I don't know what this guy's on about, but it's certainly something or whatever. Like, and then just like, every college age person in the room is just confused.
Yeah.
But anyway, tangent over. Jedi Drewster T for 762.
That's a name.
It is a name. Says, I love the part of the red thread where you said, it's loring time and lored all over the lodge. Been waiting for that since the start of red thread. Did you actually say that?
No.
Because
I should have.
You might have.
Yeah. You know, find out if I did. Watch it. Watch the episode. Maybe I did.
If you didn't say it this time, you certainly will next time.
I did accuse somebody unexpected of genocide. Yeah, you heard me.
Okay, moving on. I'm gonna listen at some point. So,
If you have a car ride that's almost 4 hours long, it's a great thing to listen to.
White Trash Panda says, "How are you enjoying the Ghetto Bible, Mattis?" Where
It's over there.
is it?
It's the message. Yeah, give it to me. We'll open it to a random page and I'll read it.
Yeah, I also want to read from it. Hang on. We have Psalm 31:18.
Oh no, not the Book of Psalms.
Hang on. 14 through 18. Here we go. Are we ready? Desperate, I throw myself onto you. You are my God. Hour by hour, I place my days in your hand, safe from the hands out to get me. Warn me. Is that warn or warm? Nope, that's warn me, your servant, with a smile. Save me because you love me. Don't embarrass me by not showing up. I've given you plenty of notice. Embarrass the wicked. Stand them up. Leave them stupidly shaking their heads as they drift down to hell. Gag those loudmouth liars who heckle me, your follower, with jeers and catcalls. You're next.
All right. The Book of Lamentations. God speaks both good things and hard things into being. Who do you think spoke and it happened? It's the master who gives such orders. Doesn't the high God speak everything, good things and hard things alike, into being? And why would anyone gifted with life complain when punished for sin? Let's take a good look at the way we're living and reorder our lives under God. Let's lift our hearts and hands at one and the same time, praying to God in heaven. We've been contrary and willful, and you haven't forgiven. What?
Hang on.
Wait, you know what we got to do? Where is it? Where's Revelation?
Oh, good Lord.
Where's Revelation 12? That's actually not that far off. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. The woman gave birth to a son who will shepherd all nations with an iron rod. Her son was seized and placed safely before God on his throne. The woman herself escaped to the desert to a place of safety prepared by God. All comforts provided her for 1,260 days. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but were no match for Michael. They were cleared out of heaven, not a sign of them left. The great dragon, ancient serpent, the one called Devil and Satan, the one who led the whole earth astray, thrown out, and all his angels with him, thrown down to earth. Yeah, it's...
Can I...
The good news is, it's not as bad in Revelation as I thought it would be. It could be worse. Hang on, there's... Where's the... Then I looked and, a door opened into heaven. The trumpet voice, the first voice in my vision, called out, "Ascend and enter. I'll show you what happens next."
Oh my God. Wait, can I see real quick? I wanna dive deep into the beginning.
Where are you going for Genesis?
Yep. Specifically... Actually, you know what? We're gonna go right to the very beginning.
Oh, I know what I want one more before we move on to the next super chat, but I know what I want to look at.
Wow. First this. God created the heavens and earth. All you see, all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. God's spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss. God spoke, "Light," and it appeared. God saw that the light was good, and separated light from dark. God named the light day, and he named the dark night. It was evening, it was morning, day one.
Wow.
God spoke, "Sky!" In the middle of the waters, separate the water from the water. God made sky. He separated the water under sky from the water above sky. And there it was. He named sky the heavens. It was evening, it was morning, day 2. This is what I was hoping for. Also, yes, for those of you confused, it is the message.
It is the message. Wait. Okay, you can't... Hang on.
I just love the day 1, day 2.
Okay. All right, hang on here.
If you want more of this content, you can check out Weird Bible once a month on the Weird Bible channel, where we talk about things like this with Wendigoon, and we infuriate him with reading him from passages of the message.
God made 2 big lights. The larger to take charge of day, the smaller to be in charge of night, and he made the stars. But here's a... This is the end. This is the beginning of day 5, right? God spoke, swarm, ocean, with fish and all sea life. Birds fly through the sky over earth. God created the huge whales, all the swarm of life in the waters, and every kind of species of flying birds. God saw that it was good. God blessed them. Prosper, reproduce, fill ocean. God is apparently a Neanderthal. Birds reproduce on earth. This is... Oh my god.
Hang on. I want to compare really quickly with KJV so people get an understanding of what the actual comparison is. The beginning of KJV starts as such. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void.
Hang on. God spoke, first this, God created the heavens and the earth. All you see, all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness. A bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. God's spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss.
Yep, and the earth was without form and void. The darkness was upon the face of the earth, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light and said that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness.
God spoke, light, and light appeared. God saw the light was good and separated light from dark.
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
It's so bad.
And the other one, it was morning, it was
no
day 1.
No. Genesis chapter 4 begins, Adam slept with Eve, his wife. She conceived and had Cain. She said, I've gotten a man with God's help.
How dare they get rid of it? He knew her. Where's my Bible?
This is amazing. God said to Cain, where's Abel your brother? He said, how should I know? Am I his babysitter?
That's phenomenal.
Oh, here we go. Genesis 6. The big one. When the human race began to increase, with more and more daughters being born, the sons of God noticed that the daughters of men were beautiful. They looked them over and picked out wives for themselves. Then God said, I'm not going to breathe life into men and women endlessly. Eventually they're going to die. From now on, they can expect a lifespan of 120 years.
Wait.
Eventually they were going to die from now... Okay, this was back in the days, and also later, when there were giants in the land. The giants came from the union of the sons of God and the daughters of men. These were the mighty men of ancient lore, the famous ones. This is bad. This is a bad book. Like, this is an objectively bad translation of the Bible.
Hang on. Let me see it.
Wait, there's one thing specifically that I need, Aiden. I need the javelins.
Oh, I need John 24 to see if it says he outran him. And how they say it.
John 24, you said?
Yes.
21. All right. Peter and the other disciple left immediately for the tomb. They ran neck and neck. The other disciple got to the tomb first, outrunning Peter. Stooping to look in, he saw the pieces of linen cloth lying there, but he didn't go in. Simon Peter arrived after him, entered the tomb, observed the linen cloth lying there, and the kerchief used to cover his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but separate, neatly folded by itself.
Not as bad as I thought it was.
Not as bad as I thought.
All right, your last one, and then we got to move on to something else.
I need to find it, though. It was, is it in Samuel or Kings?
I think it was Kings. Yeah, 1 Samuel 19:10 to 17.
Okay. Just finding it here. For Samuel 19:10, you said?
Yeah, that's where it starts.
War broke out again, and David went out to fight Philistines. He beat them badly, and they ran for their lives. But then a black mood from God settled over Saul and took control of him. He was sitting at home, his spear in his hand, while David was playing music. Suddenly, Saul tried to skewer David with his spear, but David ducked. The spear stuck in the wall, and David got away. It was night.
The endings kill me.
Yeah, it's incredible. Oh my gosh. Saul stormed at Michal. How could you play tricks on me like this? You sided with my enemy, and now he's gotten away. Is this the Anakin Skywalker translation?
It seems like it.
Like,
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I want to know where my Bible is.
I ate it.
Well, that's not
I put it in my tummy. Yum,
It
yum.
had my name on it.
That was my favorite part.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually honored. All right, moving on. Bert Moran has been a member for 10 months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moistologist says, hey guys, haven't been on live for a while. Hope you remember me. Mind if I add you to Helldivers?
Pardon?
I guess like add as a friend on Helldivers?
Yeah, sure.
Go for it. I haven't played it, so. K Android, let me see if I didn't jump anything. All right, cool. K Android for $10 says, Mattis, it was so good seeing you in Red Thread. I'm really enjoying the Unhinged podcast. You guys are really just good at hosting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Red Thread was a lot of fun, and History Unhinged is probably my favorite show we do.
I will say, so I was compiling all of the rest of the episodes that we have today, just because I had a little panic attack over the weekend because I couldn't find the footage of you for the last two that we did. And then I realized it was just on one of the many hard drives I still haven't transferred all the footage over from yet. But there is one.
It'd be really funny if you just had to look at Steven while I talked.
It would have been funny. The way the last two start are great because we're officially the last one starts literally with me just doing the slate because we got to the point where, and you mention it in the last one, you're like, I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know when we're starting. Like 2 episodes ago, I asked like 4 times if we started the show because I have no idea. But the conversation literally starts right as like me doing the slate becomes like a part of your rant 3 minutes later. So I was like, I'll just start with the slate because less than 10 seconds in, like Gabby and Steven, because Gabby filled in for me so I could get one of our videos done that week. They start talking about, like, they make a joke with each other and they're like, oh yeah, when we started, there was this whole thing or whatever. And it's just the show. Like the funny thing about us hosting and being good at hosts is this is just who we are.
Yeah, we just set up some cameras and are being ourselves.
Yeah. Which I'm very honored by.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny that this is the kind of stuff we did in high school with no cameras on us.
Yeah. Turns out, if you give man camera and microphone, he make podcast.
You could film a man for a day, or you could teach him how to film himself for life.
Yes. Also, we need to get merch that says colonization is when white man in boat.
Yeah. You know, for all the ideas of merch that we have, we
don't
never
make any.
We never talk to Bunker.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
Yeah. Well, we need to coordinate the drops with
That's true.
which would require us to plan out what videos we're going to do more than a week in advance.
Yeah. It would.
Actually, they can do 2-week turnarounds. So if you decide you're going to do a video anytime before the Monday you start researching,
That's true, yeah.
we could coordinate with them and have it drop the day that video airs.
That's a good point. We should get better about that.
We should. This is also how we run our business. Anyway.
Yes.
Gom says, hey, maybe for content.
Just to be clear, that is not Bunker. That is our old spring line. The Bunker shirts hold up better.
Yes. Yeah, the lines are a lot thicker. I don't know where my Bunker shirts are other than the redacted.
Mine are definitely in the wash somewhere.
Yeah. Now that the washing...
Some of them might actually still be in my truck from February.
Fair. So now that the washing machine in the place I live is not on the same floor, I forget about its
Yeah.
existence a lot more frequently. It's not great.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, Gomba's saying, hey, maybe for content you could do your promises that I've compiled for you over the first 50 episodes. There's
We're
a lot
working
of
on
stuff like when to go milk stand.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're getting there. If we can get this calendar done,
I think you guys
a miracle.
I think you guys tend to underestimate precisely how much time goes into each episode of this show.
We made all of those promises when we were both doing this as a side gig.
Yeah.
So like it was a lot more feasible in our minds of like, oh, if we ever went full time, like we could totally do that. The problem is that we now spend over a full work week on each video from each of our standpoints. And we also do 2 other podcasts.
We keep doing things.
Other channels. Yeah.
Give us, honestly, just give us more ideas for episode topics, and we'll do them.
Yeah,
but
it is entirely our fault. But please give us some grace.
Yeah, right now it really is one of those situations where it's like if we could make another $5,000 a month on Patreon, we could hire an editor and we could do all the things we keep saying we want to do. We just haven't gotten there yet.
And the whole endeavor from the last 2 months of YouTube didn't.
Yeah, YouTube kind of grabbed us by the balls and slapped us across the face and spit in our mouths.
You can't say that word too many times.
Yeah. So
now we know. Now we've learned. Now we're moving on.
Yep.
Stealthy Noctowl for 762, love it, says, hey, Spotify listener here. I'm a truck driver and love listening to this and the Friday videos while on the road. Ooh. Lucky for you, one of the things I did this weekend was organizing all of the videos that we still have yet to put up on Spotify from the Friday videos, so they will be a lot more accessible. I just need to figure out in what order I'm going to upload them, because it's going to take time to re-edit them, export them, upload, stuff like that.
He's got to take out the ads.
I do. So once I'm done all of the current History Unhinged round, then I'm just going to get like 6 to 10 Friday videos done and scheduled, and then I'm just going to rotate back and forth. But again, a lot of time, but we're getting there. The Rude Canadian, you wouldn't happen to be a member of the RCMP, would you? For Canadian 566, says, therapy money to counteract whatever nonsense Galm is posting today.
That's fair. I appreciate that. I need the therapy money.
Yeah.
I don't use it to buy therapy. I use it to buy alcohol, which is just as good.
Basically the same thing.
Same thing. My therapist's name is Jack Daniels.
Is he certified? Does he have his doctorate?
I did not think this far ahead with the joke.
Fair enough. See, because my therapist is Dr. Pepper.
I'm going to go drink the entire jar of moonshine right now, and you're going to watch me die right here on live television.
Let's be fair. Probably wouldn't have been the most you've ever drank in a night.
That's 80%. That jar is still 2/3 full.
It does not taste like 80%.
It does not. It burns like 80%, but it tastes like corn.
Yeah.
I bet you could power a car with that.
For a period, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it is basically pure corn ethanol.
My truck, you could. Our cars, probably not.
Probably. Anyway.
Yes, moving on. Duo Black Rose for $5 says, one of my mom's clients is the dog of the local police chief. I can't remember if it is Norristown or not.
What do you mean by that?
like maybe for haircuts? Like dog grooming?
Okay.
What were you thinking?
No, that's the thing is I was like, I don't understand what that means. One of my mom's clients is the dog. I would have perceived the client to be the dog's owner.
Oh.
Yeah, it took me a minute. Dude, I am so tired.
Yeah, it's valid. Yeah, we got to rip through this.
I have not gotten a full night's sleep in a week.
I haven't been sleeping well either. Wonder what that is.
I don't know.
Griff for $10 says, what's the most unhinged conspiracy you can think of? Mine is Jakob condensed version, the black scientist who created white people who revolted against him and set back humanity. What? I've never heard of this before.
It's like a Afrocentrist weird conspiracy theory.
Brother, history is already Afrocentrist. As is.
Yeah, so Yakub's a great one, to be clear.
Do we want to cover that at some point?
Oh god, I don't know if we can. I think probably it was a really minor one that was part of the whole Tartaria nonsense from Mind Unused. It was that Cabbage Patch Kids
Oh, yeah.
are a reference to actual children grown in cabbage patches,
Yep.
and that they used to grow children.
Yeah, we don't talk about that enough.
The Tartaria, oh my god.
No, I know.
I'm still not over the fact that his rebuttal to my video was basically, I'm going to not actually address anything that was said, take things you did say out of context, and grab screenshots of you that make you look silly.
It wasn't shocking at all.
No, but the fact that his fans defended that was really eye-opening. That was the point at which I realized democracy was probably a mistake.
And that's why we're a republic.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe the monarchists had it right. Just put some inbred dude in charge.
No.
It'll either go really well or really badly.
Generally, it's going to go really badly.
Dude.
I don't think it's ever actually gone really well.
I'm trying to think of one.
This long of a pause would indicate that it's probably an accurate statement.
Henry II of England wasn't terrible.
The exception that proves the rule.
Constantine the 11th, Paleologos?
How many monarchs have existed?
That's not relevant.
Are you sure?
Chief Powhatan seemed like he was chill.
Amazing. Bert Moran for $5 says, when I was live with you guys, I mentioned a case about a man who was shot in the back of the head, ruled a suicide, working on the video. It is wild. I am excited to see that video.
Yeah, me too. I can't remember all the details, but I am excited.
Yes.
Bert does good stuff, guys. Check him out. If you need more weird, check his stuff out.
Yeah.
He's got weird.
No, it's great. EK for $5 says, have you heard of Propaganda Doom Masonic Lodge that allegedly infiltrated Italian politics and the Vatican in the 80s? Wild, since the Vatican hates Masons.
We don't approve.
Who are you speaking for?
The Freemasons.
Okay.
Specifically the real ones.
Valid. Fair.
Oh, I'm supposed to...
Yeah, don't you have a thing for that soon?
Yeah, I'm getting my Royal Arch degree tomorrow.
Nice. Congrats.
I don't know what's going to happen. They haven't brought out the goat yet. I'm 6 rituals in. There's been no goats. I'm starting to think there might not be any.
Are you disappointed?
Only slightly.
Fair. You were hoping for some weird shit?
I mean, I would feel like maybe... You know, I don't know. I feel like there should be a goat at some point.
Everybody's talked up the Masons so much, you're kind of a little disappointed.
Yeah,
up.
It's just kind of some dudes eating hoagies.
So basically every other club on the planet.
Yeah. I have yet to find anything weird. Everybody's like, oh, weird stuff happens. It's just when you get up to a higher degree. I'm getting higher. Like, can you take me higher?
They're taking you higher.
They are. So far, though, no goats, no Satanism. Mostly just Christian and Jewish stuff.
Yeah, it tracks.
And all the Jewish stuff is also Christian stuff, so. It's all Old Testament.
Fair.
Ah!
It happens. Just means I have to scroll again. All right. Next up, once I'm able to find it. Because...
I'm so tired.
I know, so am I.
You guys are brutal. I appreciate you so much. But I'm so sleepy.
Hang on.
You were just... Yeah, it was one of those with the yellow background.
There we go. Vampire from Pluto for $5 says, just so you on the red thread, great to see the Lore Lodge Extended Universe keeps crossing over with the Wendigoon Extended Universe.
Yeah.
It just happens.
It makes sense.
We're kind of in the same neighborhood, so it's bound to occur. White Trash Panda for $5 says, Mattis, how much to do a stream reacting to Muhammad's Boom Boom Room? Look it up.
Am I going to regret this?
Probably, yeah.
Muhammad's Boom Boom Room. It's
Yep.
a TV series.
Oh, boy. Also, Gom says you can't run fast enough to escape Ohio, which is true.
I can run pretty fast. In each episode of this show, Muhammad talks with a guest about Islam and related topics. Most often, the show ends with Muhammad blowing them up.
That feels like something you shouldn't react.
This looks like something that I really should not have even looked up. Welcome to Muhammad's Boom Boom Room. This is the tagline. Welcome to Muhammad's Boom Boom Room, where all of his guests either agree with him completely or they go boom.
Interesting.
Apparently, the first line of each episode is "Welcome to Muhammad's Boom Boom Room, where all of my guests either agree with me completely or they go boom. I'm your host, the Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon me."
Is it animated?
Nope, it's live.
So this is just... Okay.
This feels like something that would have been on YouTube in 2007,
Yeah.
but it's from 2019.
Also, Griff is adding that Jakub is related to Tartaria, apparently.
Oh, good. I guess Darth Vader has been a guest.
This has to be YouTube, right? There's no way this is a real television show.
I would assume so.
Like, it looks like something the whitest kids you know would do. I don't know. NC Squatch for 556 says, it was awesome seeing Mattis on Red Thread. Is there any chance of getting y'all and Stakuyi on an unsub episode together?
That is entirely up to Eli and the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
Ask them. We're down.
Just ask them in the comments if you want to see it.
We try not to badger them.
Yeah. They're doing their own thing.
It is a YouTube show.
Okay, good. Duo Black Rose for $2 says, gotta go, got to be wheels up at 4 a.m. Good luck.
Good luck.
Elena DeHowler Werewolf Queen for $50 says, won't be able to watch the whole stream tonight for you for your Mothman video. Build-A-Bear has a plush of him. Would you consider collaborating with a true crime YouTuber or lawyer? Maybe solve some mysteries in Gravity Falls, the Disney TV show. That's a lot. There's a lot right there.
There's a lot there.
We would definitely partner up with other
that would be fun.
YouTubers for different content. We would totally be down for that. The problem is just we would then need to schedule our content further out, which we were doing for a period of time.
It was going okay.
I think we need to sit down for like an hour.
Well, it didn't help that we had a plan and then YouTube was like, what's the saying? Men make plans and God laughs or whatever.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. Except in this case, YouTube is God. And YouTube is kind of a dick.
We really are in a weird version of the supernatural timeline.
Yeah. I want the Men of Letters bunker.
We're basically in it.
No, it needs to be underground.
Do you want to go in the basement? Incredible. Yeah,
the rest of the show will be on OnlyFans.
Yeah. Somebody asked in the comments, I think, if one of us had an OnlyFans.
No.
We don't. Yeah, on this week's video, I saw that.
Nope.
Not that we're aware of.
Would be kind of funny just to like have one where we just do this. Just start posting this show on OnlyFans.
Yeah. I feel like we'd have a lot of like 1 month subscribers.
Yeah. Money.
But yeah. Mothman Build-A-Bear sounds fun. I don't know about TV show mysteries just because they're really fiction.
People wouldn't be interested.
Yeah.
We did have mild success with a few that were about horror movies.
Yeah.
The lore behind them, but that was limited.
A couple did really well, and then a couple did badly.
Yeah.
So,
Also, Warner Brothers really likes to hit the copyright button,
they do be slamming that copyright button.
even when you've done nothing to trigger the copyright button.
Yep, even when you've followed all of fair use's guidelines.
Thanks, Warner Brothers.
Thank you. Miss Maury for $2 says, for Thornbury's cold open, 10 out of 10 would watch again. Thank you. I was entertained by how many people were commenting. Either, hey, good to see him on the Friday video, or who's the random guy at the start?
Yeah, he texted me and he was like, we forgot to film a cold open. And I was like, do you want to just say this? And then I told him what to say.
Yeah,
Which was how it went.
It was generally along the lines of what I was planning,
Yeah.
but it was his wording and then just me saying it. At least we know it's a good way if we ever do that again.
Yeah.
I can just do that.
If I had a nickel for every time we forgot to do the cold open.
Mattis would probably take it and add it to his collection. I made no.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. EK for $4.99 says, can you explain again how Easter is Christian, not pagan, to the smooth brains, Christus Rex? I don't know. Behold the milk
Christus
overflows.
Rex means Christ is king.
Got it. Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was a saying or he was calling someone out. Overfloweth its vessel and watereth the soul.
Yeah, so, I mean, to just do the really quick version, Easter isn't pagan. It was never pagan. All of the arguments that Easter is pagan are basically word association based upon internet rumors. The biggest one is Ostara or Estra or Eostre. Inspiring Philosophy has a great short on this that he just put up on YouTube and Instagram and everything. Basically, the version of events you get from a lot of neo-pagans and people who are just generally being weird about it is that Easter is actually a rebranded version of the festival of Eostra or Ostara, who was a Germanic pagan fertility goddess, and that the whole thing was just a way to convert pagans to Christianity. That is complete bullshit. We know exactly this much about that Germanic goddess. It comes from one paragraph in the Reckoning of Time by the Venerable Bede, who was a 8th century Anglo-Saxon saint, and all he said is Eostermonat, which is their name for April at the time, which is now called the Paschal month, which Pascha is the actual term for Easter. We use Easter because we speak a Germanic language. So they called the month Eostermonat, which was named for a goddess of theirs whose festival they celebrated at the beginning of or during that month, and that's really all it says. He doesn't say anything about what the festival was. There's nothing about bunnies or eggs or any sort of other reference to Easter as we know it. It's possible this wasn't even actually a goddess, because this is the only mention that we have in any historical document ever. Just this one. Says nothing about the celebration. And more importantly, Easter was being celebrated before Christianity got to Germany. It's also not based off of Ishtar.
Wait, so in this current rendition then, so where does the actual name come from, and then why the bunnies and the eggs?
The eggs, I believe, derive from a tradition associated with Lent. And originally it was just that at the end of Lent, you would take all the eggs. I think they would basically save up the eggs that were laid during Lent, and then they would eat them at the end as part of the celebration. So the eggs themselves come from Lent. The decorated eggs come from people decorating the Lent eggs. I believe that comes around in the 13th century in England. I think it's Edward I who starts that one. The bunnies it was originally the Easter hare, not the Easter bunny, and I can't totally remember what the reasoning was, but I think that one dates to the 1600s.
I would not be shocked if it just has to do with the fact that bunnies come out of their burrows and
I think if I remember correctly, that was Easter coincides with rabbits emerging from their burrows.
Yeah, because I've seen 6 rabbits in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, Ella's seen rabbits. The husky has seen the rabbits, and she has tried to chase the rabbits.
I believe it.
But yeah, so like the Easter bunny comes from the 17th century, Easter eggs come from the 13th century, and Germanic paganism died out in the 9th century in Britain and Germany. And it died out in like the 11th century in Scandinavia. So not pagan at all, not a single part of it. The dating is about Passover. The entire holiday, in fact, is the fulfillment of the Passover promise. The blood of the lamb and the blood of the lamb. None of this is controversial, nor is it even up for debate. Easter is not pagan. It was never pagan. Christmas also is not pagan. I'm tired, Aiden. I'm tired of doing this every year.
I know. You're being a good religious communicator.
I know.
And a historian.
Yeah, but anyway, the reason that Easter is when it is because the calendar has changed. What they do know is that it was the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox.
Nice. Dread of the Deep for $5 says, what cryptid would you want to fight just to prove it exists? Just jumping in, we'll watch this later. I'm going to say Nessie just because I want Nessie to be real.
I thought you were going to stop at I want Nessie.
No, I'm going to commit a relationship now. I can't be saying that.
Okay.
Were I single? No.
Fight? I have to fight it?
Yeah. That's the thing. Nessie's taking me down.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, I'm...
Nessie's taking you down.
I'm sacrificing myself for the definitive proof.
That's a hard one. I'm going to go with the chupacabra.
Because it has the least likelihood of killing you?
No. I just think it's a funny one.
Fair.
Its name means goat sucker.
Of course it does.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. EK says, communism looks goofy. I bite my thumb at it. Low-key looks goofy. Or low-key goofy. Sorry, I saw low-key and read it as looks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I supposed to disagree with McCarthy?
Yeah, click that.
Can say a lot about McCarthy, but can you say he was wrong?
Okay, so I was going to ignore Gom's message here, but it is a pair, specifically from him and Chimp with a hand grenade, because Gom said, Chimp the mod looks like he knows what feet taste like, and then Chimp followed up pretty much right after that saying, Gom's feet do not taste good, so I've heard. So there's a weird tension going on between Gom and Chimp with a hand grenade.
I would like you guys to keep that tension as far away from me as possible.
Wanted you to be aware of it.
What Gomb and Chimp do in the privacy of their own bedroom is none of my business.
Agreed. But it should be in
the privacy of their own bedroom.
Yeah. The cast man for $2 says, are you going to do an episode on Maura Murray?
Yes.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just kind of collecting things to see if I want to do it right. You know? It's kind of a lot of pressure when someone else has 150 episodes.
Yeah, that's pretty much. White Trash Panda for $5 says, look up the drug name for Vyvanse. It's the equivalent to a dyslexic trying to say dyslexic amphetamine. Have a laugh. Which I'm shocked I got through that in one read.
Oh, lisdexamphetamine.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Lydia Brumpton's asking if we've ever considered doing missing persons cases outside of America and Canada. Yes, we have, but the problem is getting information.
Yeah, first of all, there's the language barrier anywhere outside of the Anglosphere, and then there's the fact that America has so very few privacy laws about reporting. Like, in America, free speech overrides privacy in a lot of cases. That is not the case in other countries.
Yeah, a lot of the other countries are a lot more uptight about it. One of the most uptight in the nation is Florida, and that's why you always see the title.
Florida Man.
Yeah, that's why you always see Florida Man, because most states, you can just say the person's name.
Yeah, it's like John Smith got to first base with an alligator.
Yes.
In Florida, it's like Florida man got to first base with a reptile.
Yes.
Makes it sound a lot more mysterious.
Yes. And easily attributable to a ethereal single Florida man that just happens to keep doing all of these things, which is fun.
The Adventures of Florida Man.
That would be such a great series.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Naylor for $5 says,
What a name. That is a good metal band lead singer name.
it is a good name. You're not going to like the question, though. He says,
Oh, no.
are you brain damaged? Cops can use your statements even if they haven't read your rights. It's called spontaneous utterance or voluntary statement.
They cannot be admissible as evidence if it is obtained entirely outside of an investigation. It has to be it's kind of like with physical evidence, like Raymond Ryan's got hit for drugs and everything because they found it while serving another warrant and it was out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
Had they been looking through his drawers and they found it, it wouldn't be admissible. So if James had called and said, hey, I just got home, I passed my girlfriend's car on the side of the road, she wasn't in it, and I think you guys should check it out. And then they were like, well, why didn't you call us while you were there? And he said, I was under the influence. They can't charge him for that because they can't use the confession.
Yeah. You can't retroactively get someone for something that they did in the past but are not actively doing.
Yeah. Now, if he had called them, they showed up, and they gave him a breathalyzer, then they can get him. But him saying, this has actually been adjudicated in a number of ways because of rap music.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Because they establish standards for basically like what is considered a confession through things like rap music. Because if you say, I killed a man, they can't get you for that. They can't be like, we're arresting you and opening an investigation into who you killed. But if you say, I killed this guy on the corner of 5th and Rosemont last year over a fight over a dime bag, and I buried him out back of the old schoolhouse, then they can get you. It really depends.
I think even then you have to sign your statement.
Yeah. And more importantly, they would not have gotten him for the DUI.
Yeah.
In fact, the DUI would have played into his favor. Because, he committed this complicated crime while plastered?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Unlikely. AZ Cosplays for $5 says, just turned 21 on Saturday. Any drinks I should try next time I go out? AZ is short for Asriel. Congratulations. Happy belated birthday.
What kind of time are you trying to have?
Yeah, also, what are you liking so far?
No, that's not the question. What kind of time were you trying to have?
I like a good mojito.
Long Island iced tea.
Oh, yeah, depending on where you get those. If you're trying to have a night, if you swap those with green tea shots, then be responsible, please. Be aware that we're telling you this is dangerous combo. But it is a combo that we have partaken in many a time.
Long Island iced tea.
I remember in
Also,
college,
I do like a good cheap option is a club soda, pineapple, and tequila.
yeah. I remember in college I had like 4 Long Island iced teas in like an hour.
Oh, yeah. I used to go to a bar in college on Wednesdays because it was dollar taco night and half off cocktails. Like mixed drinks at the bar. So I'd go in with like $20 and get like... Also, I knew one of the bartenders, so I would get every other drink free. So I'd be paying half for each drink. So I'd go in with like $20, get like 4 tacos and 4 Long Islands, and have money left over to tip.
See, that reminds me of there's a bar in New York called Rudy's,
Mm-hmm.
which might be the greatest bar in America, where the beer, the cheapest beer you can get, was a $3 draft in the middle of Manhattan. And every beer you got a free hot dog. And if you got a pitcher, you got 4 free hot dogs.
I like this place.
They were good hot dogs, too. I went in, I was like, because people were like, okay, but they're free, it's at a bar, like whatever. I'm like, I'm going here sober, and I'm trying the hot dogs just to be sure.
Yeah.
They're really good hot dogs.
There was a pizza place in State College that we were convinced had different recipes for daytime and nighttime.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I wouldn't blame him in the
Yeah, it was
slightest.
called Canyon Pizza. There was not a canyon, by the way. The canyon was Beaver Canyon, which sounds like a euphemism, but is not. It was called Beaver Canyon because there were high rises on each side of the road, and it turned into a wind tunnel in the winter. It was not a fun time.
Yeah. That's how the entire of New York City was in winter.
Yeah, I believe it.
Because there's like, if you know the geography of New York at all, you've got, I'm going to do this for you guys left to right.
Yeah. We also had 13-cent beer night.
Oh, that's fun. So you've got New Jersey's little like bluffs, and then the Hudson River, and then Manhattan, and then the East River, and then Long Island and like the Atlantic Ocean or whatever. So the predominant winds come from the west. So they would roll down over these hills like katabatic wind style over the freezing cold Hudson River, and then just right through the streets of Manhattan. So when it's like 20 degrees out and then it's going over cold water, it's just, yeah, it's it gets cold, and it gets really windy in that city in the winter. But I'll tell you what, I'd much rather be there in the winter than the summer, because my God, that place smells awful in the summer. But, anyway. Kevin McGuire for $5 says, if the flashers were already off when others went by, and that's why no one called, this would be assuming the BF was involved. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Pizy Key for $5 says, another Vermont case of incompetence could look into the Austin Colson case. He was murdered, then even found the guy, but gave up because COVID. No joke.
Looking it up.
Yeah, we're going to write that down. That's pretty bad.
Vermont?
Yes. Wes Off for $5 says, re-trafficking wouldn't have been first thing in my mind 20 plus years ago. If it ever came up, it was a thing that happened elsewhere. Yeah, I have a feeling a lot of NIMBY elements were going on with certain things back then. Not in my backyard.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Kristen for $4.99 says, an old car crashed into an abandoned building is nothing out of the ordinary here in Vermont, especially in rural areas. I wouldn't have called it on.
With the blinkers on, though? And both doors open?
That's the thing, if they were off by the time people went by.
Yeah, but they weren't until like 4:30 in the morning.
Fair.
Well, maybe 2:30, but like at least 3 or 4 people passed by.
Fair. But again, like big drug area.
Yeah.
Matthew Martell for Canadian $20 says, you should look into Cedrica Provencher, 9-year-old who disappeared in Trois Rivières, Quebec. They found her bones a couple of years ago. Cops effed up so bad, can't prosecute. The suspect got caught with CP, but they had to let him go. How does that happen? How do you get caught with that?
What was the name?
You're going to have to read that. It's Cedrica, C-E with the little thing over it, D-R-I-K-A.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, got it. Court Crandall for $2 said, watched for years, but first live tonight. Loving it. Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Next, just for $10 says, day 2 and 3 of asking for you guys to cover young Earth creationist dinosaur cryptids. Have you guys considered covering mysterious disappearances on cruise ships?
I did come across one, but it looks like she was trafficked.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, young Earth creationist dinosaur cryptids.
I have no idea what to make of the latter half of that, but yes, young Earth creationist was on the list.
I assume the young Earth creationists with dinosaurs are just saying that they're not dinosaurs, they're just cryptids.
That would be a new one. Usually they say that Satan put them there to confuse you.
Because that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that's what the Bible says for sure.
I wonder if they've ever read the Bible.
They do. They just are very selectively literal about it.
Got it. Interesting. Thomas Ahern for $5 says, do you know if Brianna was ever declared legally dead?
I don't believe she has been.
Because they're still looking, technically, aren't they?
Yeah. I don't believe she's been declared legally dead. There isn't any benefit to declaring her legally dead because she was a minor. So they can keep the case open as long as she's not legally dead.
Tingin's Top Guy's a new member. Gom, we're not recapping the whole show, but thanks. Walai Muna, I'm sorry if I messed up that name, for an R $20, says, if you're running out of stuff to make videos on in the US, look elsewhere, like the general incompetence from law enforcement that allowed Pedro Alfonso Lopez to operate for so long with impunity.
Yeah, the issue is mainly language barrier and privacy laws.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed that you were able to do as much as you did with the language barriers of the Dyatlov Pass and Kamar-Daban incidents.
That was because somebody else did all of the hard work of translating it for me.
That's fair. The Dyatlov Pass website is...
Oh my God, it's good.
Yeah. Different cat, says, please look at Jody Husentrut in Mason City, Iowa.
Jody Husentrut.
And that's the end of Super Chats from prior to 8 p.m.
How do you spell Husentrut? Oh, there we go. American news anchor who disappeared in the early morning hours of June 27th, 1995, soon after telling a colleague that she had overslept and was running late to work. As there were signs of a struggle outside her apartment, Husentrut is believed to have been abducted. Interesting. Is there a good amount of information on her disappearance? There is a decent amount of information. I will have to take a look.
Cool.
I saw there were a couple like $10 and $20 ones if you want to hit those, just because people have given their hard-earned money.
Yes. So Ella the Sasquatch with a shotgun for $10 says, if you ever cover Florida disappearances, can you cover the disappearance of Tommy Campana? His plane went missing between mainland Florida and the Keys in February of 2022.
His plane went missing?
I'm going to guess a malfunction or something. But yeah, we can look into stuff such as also Tyler Fridge Fleming, which wild nickname, but I dig it, for $10, says, during your theory about Britney, you talked about the keys being missing. The signals in that car shouldn't be able to work without them being in the ignition, which means that the BF took them. Like boyfriend.
In specifically that model of car?
It might be. I don't know about that model. I know I don't know, because my truck, you can turn the lights on without the keys being in the ignition.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right to me. I mean, maybe if it's specific to the Oldsmobile 88.
It's possible.
But my cars have always been able to run and have blinkers on and everything with the keys out.
Yeah, keep in mind, my truck's an 89. And it doesn't even have flashers, but I know all the lights I can just pop on without the keys in the ignition. So
I don't think it had hazard lights. It was its blinker was on, like turn signal.
I'm gonna check mine and see if that's possible.
Yeah, interesting.
Totally different model, obviously, but and then
there was one there.
Yep, Matthew Wertenberger for $20. Thank you very much. Says, hi guys, love the content. I see Madison in the comments on Insta every now and again. Also, please take your videos in any direction you guys see fit. We, the loyal fan base, will always watch.
We appreciate that. Unfortunately, we need more than just the loyal fan base.
Once the loyal fan base gets big enough, we'll be fine.
Yeah. We're struggling.
We're thankful for each and every one of you. But we look forward to the opportunity for this community continuing to grow.
If we had 250,000 people who watched everything we put out, no matter what it was, then we could do that. Unfortunately, it's closer to 100 to 150 right now, which is not quite what we need to be able to do the things we want to do.
Yes, but we're not far away.
We're getting there.
Yeah,
it's getting closer,
slowly but surely. Anyway, thank you to everybody very much for putting the time, effort, and monetary value into sending us these messages. We appreciate the questions and comments that you guys give us. But now it is time for us to retire because we are both EP by.
Splitting headache, that's more my problem. I've had a migraine since the show started.
Yep. But we look forward to seeing you this Friday for finally the return of the next part in the John Bonet series.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that entirely.
Oh yeah, we're doing it, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening. We're finally there again.
You're gonna get some information.
Yep.
This is one of those ones where you're like, really? Really?
Yeah.
Over and over again, repeatedly.
It'll be a good one. But for now, thank you everybody for stopping by. We'll see you next week for probably a recap and discussion of that JonBenet episode. So yeah,
I'm gonna be on so much caffeine for that.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, thanks so much, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.